Pressure does something strange to people. The more important the moment becomes, the more likely they are to abandon the habits that made them successful in the first place. I saw it all the time working with athletes heading into finals. Bigger pressure, bigger expectations, which made the occasion a lot bigger. And suddenly, people stopped trusting the process. Recovery became rushed, preparation changed, and comparison crept in, almost like they were trying to force performance. But usually, the answer was simple. You need to get back to rhythm, back to the habits that got you there in the first place. And honestly, I think professionals do exactly the same thing when pressure rises. Welcome back to the Cognitive Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Clint Ray, high-performance coach, speaker, and author of The Cognitive Athlete. Last week, we talked about cognitive overload, why too much switching quietly destroys your performance. This week, we're talking about what happens when your day completely explodes. When plans change, priorities shift, pressure increases, and reality turns up. And what I've noticed with athletes, leaders, and honestly, myself at times, is this. When pressure rises, people often abandon the exact things helping them perform. Let's dive into it. I want to ask you a question. Have you ever started the day with a perfect plan? Your calendar's sorted, you've got clear priorities, you're feeling organized. Then, by like 9:15, everything changes. Maybe you have one urgent email, a client issue, a meeting overruns, maybe someone needs something immediately. Suddenly, your day that you've planned completely disappears. And honestly, this is where performance gets tested. Not when things are calm, but when reality turns up. Everyone performs well when conditions are good. When you have a clear diary, you've got good energy, no interruptions, everything's running smooth. That's the easy part. The real test is how you perform when things stop going to plan. Going back to the athletes for a moment, this was one of the biggest lessons heading into finals. Pressure made people change things. They would like to train harder, they like to do more, push further, almost like they were trying to force performance. But often, actually in most cases, the opposite was needed. They just needed to get back to rhythm, back to the usual routines, following their processes, back to what really worked. When pressure rises, rhythm creates stability, and stability lowers anxiety. And this is what the best athletes understood. When the occasion gets bigger, that is a normal thing. The challenge is not letting pressure pull you away from the things that help your performance. And cognitively, work is no different. Pressure rises, deadlines increase, so does urgency. And suddenly, those really good habits like lunch breaks, the breaks in between meetings, the thinking time for deep work in your calendar disappear. No movement, you're sat at your desk, zero boundaries. And then we wonder why your performance drops. Here's one thing I want you to think about, especially with high performers. Plans matter, 100%, but standards matter more. And there's an old saying that we used to use a lot. No plan survives first contact with the enemy. As reality changes and conditions shift, unexpected things happen all the time. The real question is not, will the plan change? The better question is, what stays true when it does? And that is the difference. Most people rely on perfect days, whereas high performers, they rely on their performance anchors. So let's talk about performance anchors. And I've talked about this before. These are the things that stay steady even when your day explodes. We're not talking about perfection or rigid routines. We're talking about anchors. And for some people, like myself, it's a non-negotiable lunch break. It's movement. It could be a pause during the day, Maybe it's a break between meetings or finishing on time. For others, it could be protecting one priority in the day. Maybe it's your thinking time, or no meetings without agendas, or the best one, learning to say no. Look, the specifics don't matter. What you need to think about is what helps you stay effective when things get messy. Like I said, under pressure, people tend to abandon the exact things helping their own performance. And usually that makes the day even worse. It doesn't make it better. Here's the cognitive athlete shift I want you to consider. You don't rise to intention when pressure hits. You default to your standards or performance anchors. That's why the goal isn't to have a perfect week. The goal is what stays true when things go sideways. That's the real test. Anyone can perform on a good day. The challenge is holding your standards on the difficult ones. So let's make this super practical. This week, it's about building performance anchors. Okay, action number 1. Identify your performance anchors. When the day gets messy, what must stay true? Maybe it's a lunch break. Maybe it's doing a bit of exercise or movement. Maybe it's a pause before reacting to something. One protected priority during the day. Maybe it's breaks between meetings or just finishing on time. Action number 2. Notice what disappears first. When pressure increases, what do you abandon? Is it your thinking time that you've scheduled in your calendar? Is it breaks? Maybe it's a bit of your own patience. Or boundaries? Or maybe it's recovery if you've scheduled recovery in. That's often the thing that you need the most. Action number 3. Plan for disruption. Before the week begins, ask yourself, when things go sideways, which they always do, how do I want to respond? Not react, but respond. Sometimes the best reset is simple. Pause, reset, get back to rhythm. And here's an important rule for week 6. Don't build a performance system that only works on good days. Build one that survives the difficult ones. For me, this became really clear when I worked in a corporate office. One of my non-negotiables was a lunch break and exercise. And honestly, some people thought I was being rude or not a team player. But that wasn't the case. I just knew how to perform. If I worked straight through lunch, sat at my desk all day and didn't move, I wasn't effective. So I'd go and train, reset, eat properly, then come back. And honestly, I could get twice as much done in the afternoon. I had better focus, more energy, and I made better decisions. Now that became my standard, and it wasn't just a nice to have, it was a standard. So let's bring this all together. The day blowing up isn't the problem. That's a normal thing. The real issue is what disappears when it happens. High performers don't rely on perfect plans. They rely on their standards. Next week, we're talking emotions, how pressure quietly changes behavior, why frustration and urgency start driving decisions, and how to recognize emotional drift before it affects your performance. Emotions are useful, but they shouldn't be driving the car. We'll unpack that next week. And before we wrap up, I have a special invitation for you. If this season is resonating with you, and you know you're capable of more, but consistency is the challenge, I'm opening the next 10-week cognitive training cycle, which starts on the 27th of July. Over the 10 weeks, we'll look at improving performance under pressure, focus, decision quality, energy, routines, and sustainable habits that actually stick. This is practical coaching, real implementation, and real accountability. I've got 10 spots available, so if you'd like to work with me directly, head over to the link in the show notes or head to the website to book in a quick call. Remember, high performance isn't accidental, it's trained. If this episode resonated with you, hit follow or subscribe. It genuinely helps grow the podcast to get it in front of more people who need it. And if someone comes to mind while listening, share it with them. When pressure rises, the goal isn't perfection, it's getting back to rhythm. Thanks for listening. See you next time.